You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
The 4x4 Podcast, episode 126.
You're listening to the 4x4 Podcast, the podcast all about four-wheeling, overlanding, off-road racing, and the outdoor lifestyle. We talk about news, tips and tricks, answer your questions, and interview big and little names in the off-roading world. So whether your rig is busted and you're in the shop wrenching on it or on your way to the trail, join us and we'll keep you plugged in on topics to help you get away. Here's your host, Dan.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dan, host of the 4x4 Podcast, doing a solo show again from northeastern Australia, outside the studio. Again, no Craig or Rich because I haven't been able to link up the times and, all this being on the opposite side of the world and living in the future business. It's kind of hard to get that together, and I don't have necessarily the best connectivity, so we're lucky we can get this podcast posted at all. But thanks again for coming back and listening to this one. On this episode 126, I have an interview to share with Kyle Fogel, the CEO of Treaty Oak Offroad. Treaty Oak Offroad is based in Texas. They kind of specialize in recovery equipment, and it's all manufactured in the United States. I almost said right here in the United States, but that would not apply. But it all started with some recovery points for the Toyota Land Cruiser and the Lexus GX470. But since then, the recovery gear has really expanded into soft shackles, bridles, static recovery straps, kinetic recovery ropes, and tree savers, and a whole bunch more stuff. Now, Treaty Oak Off-Road is a very new company, but as of the time that I recorded this interview, Kyle is really doing a great job at driving innovation and supporting the American-based manufacturing. So head over to treatyoakoffroad.com and be sure to tell them that the 4x4 Podcast sent you. And in case you miss it there at the end of the episode, Kyle hooked us up with a special coupon code that you can use. This is just for listeners of the 4x4 Podcast. So when you go to make your order, just use the coupon code 4x4 Podcast at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your order of any Treaty Oak Off-Road branded soft recovery gear. So it doesn't necessarily apply to everything that Treaty Oak Off-Road sells, but definitely on the soft recovery gear, and that's really the best stuff that they offer, really. That's what you're looking for. And the coupon is actually good all the way through the end of the year, so you can use it for Christmas shopping too if you want to order some stuff for your buddies, or at least tell somebody else that that's what you want. And at the end of the episode, I'm going to give you a short reminder about the bolt lock giveaway stuff. So stay tuned, and let's jump to that interview with Kyle from Treaty Oak Off-Road. On today's interview for the 4x4 Podcast, we have Kyle from Treaty Oak Off-Road. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing pretty good, Dan. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. I'm just now starting some vacation, so I get a little bit of time to coordinate some extra interviews and things.
Oh, great.
Well, before we get talking about Treaty Oak Off-Road, let's get to know you and what your background is in off-roading. So what is it you drive, where you're at, and what all have you done to modify it?
So right now I'm in a 2005 Lexus GX470. It's KDSS equipped, the V8, just like all the rest of them. I'm actually in transition on suspension. I've got Dobinson's monotube remote reservoir rear end right now with the Dobinson's rear shocks, and I'll have the coilovers and hopefully installed in the next couple of days. I was previously running an Old Man Emu kit, Metaltech sliders. I've got a homemade hidden winch mount in the front bumper, obviously Treaty Oak Off-Road recovery, Snowmaster fridge in the back. What else we got back here? That's pretty well it for now. We had a front runner roof rack on it, but I just yanked it off and sold it to a fellow GXer. So we're naked on the roof right now, but we'll get hopefully the southern style off-road offering here in the next few months.
Okay, and you said the GX470?
I had.
You said it's the Lexus GX470?
Yes, sir.
And that's most similar to a Land Cruiser 100 series?
4th Gen 4Runner.
4th Gen 4Runner. Okay, I knew there was some similarity between one of the Toyotas. I just couldn't remember which one.
Yeah, it's a 120 series. So it shares the 4th Gen 4Runner, Land Cruiser Prado in the world market, and then the early FJ Cruisers.
Okay. And it sounds like you're pretty well set up for overlanding more than rock crawling.
Yeah, I used to be in the scene back when I was running some Jeeps. It's just you break a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's
that's a fact.
I have a lot more fun. Yeah, I have a lot more fun, taking the family out camping and all that nowadays.
Right on. And I really like seeing on treatyoakoffroad.com here some pictures. Looks like your Land Cruiser or Lexus there. Sorry, I got to reprogram my brain now. The hidden winch mount in the bumper, that looks really, really good.
Thank you. I'm really proud of it. It was something that I had a winch I had pulled off my LJ when I had sold it before I got this, and wanted to use it. Needed to have it on the truck, and was able to figure out how to do that. So it's worked really well so far. Haven't really had to have anything crazy as far as pulls, but it looks good and it's plenty strong.
So how is it you access the winch to get it to like free spool and things like that when it looks super, aside from the fair lead and the thimble there, it's completely invisible.
Right, and that was the idea. So there's access when you pop the hood. There's a plastic trim panel kind of between the grill and the bumper, and I clocked the side of the winch so that the spool lever was at, 45-degree angle, and you can just reach your hand right in there and pop it over to free spool, and then I relocated the solenoid up under the hood by the power steering.
Oh, that's awesome. So do you have the winch controller mounted inside, or you run just a wired controller through the open hood?
I've got both. So I can run the wired controller through the open hood, and I also wired in a wireless remote. Actually, picked up the Harbor Freight wireless remote and wired it into the box, so I can I control it with either. Added a battery disconnect so I can shut the whole thing off, so I'm not having any kind of parasitic draw from the wireless. But yeah, it's pretty slick.
That's really cool. Really, really cool. And it looks like you got some other cool stuff. I'm not real familiar with the Dobinson's suspension. That's not one I've heard of. Old Man Emu I've heard of. What made you decide to transition to the Dobinsons?
So Dobinson's is a company that's based in Australia that has been making coils and suspension, and they've got a large accessory catalog as well since 1953. So they've been around in the Australian market for a long, long time, and they just got hooked up essentially really started pushing in the U.S. market last fall. So they're relatively new to the market. I ran across another GX, a 2015 GX at Lone Star Toyota Jamboree that was set up with the MRR kit, and got curious. So I started doing some digging on Instagram and pestered Mike, their GM down there at Dobinson's USA in Miami, and got set up as a dealer with them. It's probably been about 3 weeks now. So that's kind of how the relationship started, and figured I needed to be running what I'm selling. So we got a reservoir kit shipped over from Australia, and we're just finishing it up. So new to the U.S. market, but they're aggressive, and it's a really high quality kit. I think it's really going to shake the market up.
That's good. I always like seeing a little more competition, just because the competition drives innovation and everybody benefits from it. Absolutely.
Especially when as people get more aggressive in innovating and in pricing, and like, for example, the kit that I've got on my truck, front coilovers and rear shocks, both with the reservoirs, including coils, is $1,650. So the price is out of this world.
Yeah, that's really good. What all else was involved in doing that kit, or is it just a replacement of the coils and the struts?
That's it, just a direct replacement.
Okay.
If you can put shocks and struts on, you can put this kit on. It's easy peasy.
Right on. That's good to know. Okay, well, so I'm looking through here on the products that you guys offer, and I noticed that you've got the Snowmaster Expedition Series fridge. Is that something you're personally running as well?
It is. I've got the EX66D. It's a dual zone 66 liter fridge freezer. It's actually sitting in the back right now. Snowmaster is really a cool company. They're based in Austin, a couple hours west of me. So these fridges, they all come with transit bags and they all come with wireless remotes. So that was a big draw, especially at the price point versus an ARB or a Medic or some of the others. You're 10-15% off in price and similar sizes, but you get the transit bag, all stainless construction, and the wireless remote. So let's pop that remote out real quick. Right now, I'm reading 13.4 volts at the fridge, 33 degrees in the fridge side, and 0 degrees on the freezer side. So
that is awesome. And looking at the pictures,
it's pretty cool.
And you've got two different sections. It's got the refrigerator section with its own door, and then the freezer section with its own door.
Exactly. And the Expedition series fridges have 2 3/4 inch insulation, so you're retaining a lot more of that cold air and fridge and freezing ability just from the base itself.
That is really cool. I was not familiar with the Snowmaster brand back when I got my fridge a couple years ago, and I didn't realize that Snowmaster was there in Texas.
Yeah, they're based in Austin. They're another company that's relatively new, but they're just as aggressive, if not more so, than Davidson's. They're pushing product, and it's a really high quality product. It's been pretty cool to get hooked up with these guys.
Right on. Well, maybe I'll have to give them a call and chat a little bit. But for now, we are here to talk about Treaty Oak Off-Road. So tell me a little bit about the origin of the company and what all you guys offer.
So Treaty Oak Off-Road, I'm officially been in business since the second week of April this year. So going on 90 days, 100 days or so. I have had the idea for a Treaty Oak something for a long time. As I was real into firearms. I still am. Always been into off-roading. So when I got the Lexus, I wanted heavy duty recovery points, because the tie down points on the front that come from the factory don't have any substance. There's no real rating. No one's really ever said from Toyota or otherwise, hey, these are made for recovery. So I wanted heavy duty recovery points, and the only way to do that was to buy a replacement bumper. And there's more options now, but at the time it was like 2 options. They're all $1,000+ each, and it just didn't really appeal to me. So I did some more digging. I found there's some fabricators in Australia making these bolt-on recovery points that bolt onto your frame, and looked into that, and shipping was $50 for these little bitty things, and it took 3 months to get here on a boat, and that really didn't appeal either. So I thought, you know what, I can make these. It's just steel. So went out and designed them based off my own truck, and have some contacts and fabrication here in town, and took them over there, and we got these recovery points built, had them tested here at a local facility, and we're rated to 13,000 pounds per point. That gives enough strength to get you taken care of in pretty well any situation that you find yourself in. So the recovery points kind of evolved into more recovery gear. I got hooked up with the guys that actually did my testing, and we make a line of soft recovery gear, kinetic ropes, soft shackles. I've got bridles. I carry hard shackles as well from Van Beest. And it was just kind of trying to build upon that recovery aspect. There's a lot of stuff out there, on Amazon and eBay, and it's really just cheap and dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's the
when
stuff
you're in
that
a recovery,
YouTube Gold is made of.
Oh, I know. I mean, some of these Chinese bow shackles are just, they're $10 a piece or something like that, and they just a real recovery is just not worth $10. So
Absolutely.
having a metal shackle break and come flying at somebody is just bad news bears.
For sure. Well, let's pause here and talk a little bit about the recovery stuff, because the various different kinds of recovery are designed a little bit differently. Whether it's, the kinetic recovery rope is not going to work the same as a tow rope. We've mentioned that on the podcast before a little bit in the past.
Correct.
A hard shackle is going to perform a little bit differently than the soft shackle. So the recovery points that you've designed here, are these made specifically for the shock load with the recovery rope, or more for a tow point with a winch?
So it's more, I set them up to use in conjunction with a bridle. So it's bolted. It's got two bolts that bolt directly into your frame. One is straight through the frame rail, and the bottom hole is a pre-threaded hole from Toyota. So we can rate them to a static pull. It's essentially this huge sled that's used to test like mooring lines for container ships. So it's like a 50-ton sled or some crazy number. It's insane. So the sled is designed you hook your point up from the front and from the rear, and it basically tries to pull it apart. So we can get a rating based on a static load. That's not to say that this is unsafe to use with a kinetic rope. There's no reason that you shouldn't. I recommend using a bridle to get both of those points working together, especially if you're pulling off center, just for the fact that you want to have, really in any situation, bumper, toe points, however you're set up, you want to have 2 points of contact on your frame when you're making a recovery. It shares the load, it protects your equipment, it protects your rig, and it's just a smart move.
For sure. So that's something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about and use, but it's really, really good idea. The load equalizing bridle.
Yeah, certainly. It's something that really should be used more. Most guys are gonna hook up with a rope and start pulling and hope everything works out. And most of the time it's going to. If you're winching yourself, it's not as big a deal because you still have those two points of contact, one being your winch and the other whatever point you're using to self-recover. But if you're getting yanked on by, another truck pulling you out or something along those lines, sharing it across both frame rails sure is just a smart move because, you damage your frame and you're really going to be upset.
Yeah, that's a really quick way to ruin a truck altogether.
Absolutely, yeah. And we all love our trucks. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And for folks who are maybe new to off-roading, can you explain how the kinetic recovery rope works versus, just a cheap tow strap that they may find at any big box store? Absolutely.
So a kinetic rope is designed to stretch. So if you're stuck in sand or some other kind of soft ground and the vehicle that's pulling you out is also in that soft ground, and you pull the slack out of your static rope and you start spinning tires, next thing you know, you got two trucks stuck. So the kinetic rope is designed to give like a 25-30% stretch on its length. So the main rope that I push is a 20-foot rope. So that means you're getting an extra 5 feet of stretch as you're putting load on that. And the idea behind it is you can get a running start. So you've got the pull rope, or the pull truck has got some traction and momentum moving forward before any load gets transferred back to the stuck vehicle. And the idea with the stretch is not so violent. As it stretches and gives, it's more of a tug than if you had a flat rope or a static rope. It's going to be just a jolt, and it's a lot more pressure than with the kinetic rope that gives a little bit as you pull on it.
Right. That's something that I always recommend people use, and it really scares me that a lot of people don't know the difference and use a tow strap as if it were a kinetic recovery rope because, again, that's how bumpers become missiles.
That's exactly right. You see everybody's got these, Houston area off-road recovery and Dallas area off-road recovery and wherever else you are, Facebook groups, and seeing some of these videos just really make you cringe because there's, chains and flat straps being used as snatch straps, and it's just like, how has somebody not been injured?
Oh, yeah, man. I can't even imagine seeing a
me.
chain used in a snatch-type situation. That's terrifying.
Oh, gosh. It's terrifying.
Man, and I see here that the recovery ropes are made there in Houston as well?
They are. So everything, all the soft gear is made here in Houston. My recovery points are made in Houston. The soft ropes are actually weaved in Houston, so it's not buying a bunch of bulk rope and splicing it. There's a video on my should be a video on my Instagram. If there's not, I'll post it of this huge weaving machine, and they were demonstrating to me how the rope is weaved, and it's weaved from Cortland plasma fiber, which is another. It's like an Amsteel. It's just a different brand. So comparable. It's the same strength, same kind of product as the Amsteel Blue, just a different brand.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm going to resist the urge right now to go
Houston.
watch that because that sounds like a really fascinating video. So I'll link to that.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's pretty cool. It's a short video, but it's one of those things like you just can't take your eyes off of it. It just kind of plays on loop.
Exactly. So I noticed you also have the soft shackles. This is really something that I've seen become popular, but yours look a little bit different than the other ones that I've seen.
They are. So no matter what kind of, if you're using a soft rope, there's going to be, like on your cloth or like Velcro, when you pull something off of it, it kind of starts to fray and starts to kind of get a little bit more soft. So a lot of times you'll see like slip on just Cordura, little piece of fabric slipped on the shackle or nothing at all. So what I do on mine is we've got a full length abrasion guard that's built into the shackle. So it protects that rope as you're hooking up on a bumper or hooking up on rubbing it across rocks or sticks and just general use and handling. It really protects the rope from all that extra stuff that can happen to your shackle or to your rope or whatever you got going on. So it really takes the soft shackle idea and gets it a little beefier.
Okay. And the idea of using a soft shackle is that it's one less hardened piece to become a missile whenever it does fail.
Right. There's a handful of reasons. That's a very good one. Another one is they're light. So a standard 3/4 inch bow shackle weighs a little over 2 pounds. This is a little less than half that. So weight is a big part of it. They can be used in a variety of scenarios where you can't get a bow shackle attached. Like you roll a truck over and you got to get it pulled over. You can use a soft shackle on a slider or on a roll cage. 2 bumpers, any imperfect surface that you need to recover from, you can do that with a soft shackle.
Ah, I hadn't even thought about that. The way you could use that on different things. That's really smart. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, it's just kind of a step up from your bow shackle. It opens up a lot more uses.
Awesome. So I've got to ask, what is behind the name Treaty Oak Off-Road?
So I was born and raised in Texas. I'm a proud Texan, and there is
there such a
tree.
thing as not proud Texan?
If there are, they should never say so because they'll be deported.
Exactly.
So in Austin, there's a grove of oak trees called the Council Oaks, and one of the oldest trees out there is called the Treaty Oak, and it's like 500 years old. It's this huge, majestic tree. It's survived 500 years and an attempted poisoning in the late 80s. And it's just a very strong testament to a strong, stand the test of time, kind of proud Texas symbol. And, what a better way to represent my recovery company than this 500-year-old oak tree. So that's where that came from.
Gotcha. Well, it all makes perfect sense now.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions on that from non-Texans. Unsurprisingly, I'm not really surprised. Everybody doesn't know what the treaty oak is. How can that be?
Yeah, well, I lived in Texas for a couple years. My wife actually grew up in Houston as well. 2 of my 3 kids were born in Texas, so by proximity, some people consider me Texan, but I need more mountains in my life. You. Yeah, I get around enough that, and I'm sure I'll be back eventually as well. So,
well, hopefully sooner rather than later. We'd love to have you back.
Yeah, after living here in Alaska, I'm going to have a hard time going back to anywhere where, So the day I arrived in Texas, the first time I moved there, it was late November, and it was 75 degrees. It is now the middle of summer almost, and it has not reached 75 here in Alaska.
Oh, jeez. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, so it's kind of a huge temperature swing. But, well, Kyle, I really want to say thanks for coming on the 4x4 podcast and sharing some of your knowledge about recovery and talking about Treaty Oak Off-Road. So where can somebody kind of follow your company and follow your own adventures as the company grows?
So I made it really easy. Everything is Treaty Oak Off-Road. So it's treatyoakoffroad.com. Facebook.com/Treaty Oak Offroad and Instagram.com/Treaty Oak Offroad. Everything's the same, so it's nice and easy to get a hold of me.
Right on. Well, I know I've been following you on Instagram pretty close. It's good to see new companies popping up. Like I said, driving innovation. Everybody will benefit from that. So
that's right.
Awesome. Well, next time I'm in Texas, I'll be sure to look you up, and maybe some of our listeners, because I know we have quite a few in Texas, will come and check you out. Are you going to be at any of the events that are taking place in Texas?
So I was at Lone Star Toyota Jamboree this year. I'm planning on the Texas Avid Outdoors Festival in October. The company is going to be represented at a handful of events across the country going forward. I've got a rig I sponsor that's the CK Excursions rig is going to be at Overland Expo East, and they're at the Expedition Colorado Expo here next weekend.
Okay.
And hoping to make it out to some other events going forward. I know here's a little exclusive for the 4x4 podcast. Our friends Yeti and YOLO from the Wild YOLO and the Jeep called Yeti just picked up their recovery gear from Brownells HQ, so we'll be out at 36 hours of URA at their competition. So we're going to be all over the place.
Awesome. That's really exciting. So, I've almost forgot. One of the things that I always ask folks is if you have a favorite place to go off-roading and go explore. Now, that question may be different if you're more into overlanding, but I got to ask, you got any favorite spots that you wouldn't mind sharing?
My favorite camping spot on the planet is just in between Sedona, just east of Sedona in Arizona. Northern Arizona is just really a beautiful place, and just drive around and pick a spot. You won't be disappointed.
Excellent. I'll be sure to. That's some place that I've seen a lot of pictures. I've driven through there, but I haven't had enough time to really fully explore and appreciate that region just yet.
It's truly is amazing. It's a great spot.
Perfect. All right, Kyle. Well, I'll make sure to have links to everything that we've talked about here on the 4x4 podcast, so everybody can check it out in the show notes and get straight over to your website, Instagram page, and Facebook page and check you out there, and maybe pick up some soft shackles and the those load equalizing bridles. That's a great idea. Hope more people start using those.
That sounds good. Well, real quick, through the end of the year, anybody that puts 4x4 podcast in the coupon code gets 10% off any Treaty Oak Off-Road soft recovery gear. So keep in mind, guys, 4x4 podcast, that's your coupon code.
Awesome. And that for sure, we will have links in the show notes so everybody can use that and improve their recovery kit dramatically.
That's the idea.
Awesome.
A safe recovery is the best recovery.
Absolutely. All right, Kyle, thanks again, and I will talk to you later.
Sounds good, Dan. Have a good one.
All right, thanks, Kyle, for sharing that great interview and especially that coupon code. Remember, that's 4x4 podcast at checkout, and that'll get you 10% off any of the Treaty Oak Off-Road branded soft recovery gear. All right, now, quick reminder, we are doing the Bolt Lock giveaway. So to be entered into the giveaway, need you to go over and like the 4x4 podcast on Facebook and Bolt Locks on Facebook as well at facebook.com/boltlock. And then go to your own personal Facebook page and tell us why you need a bolt lock. So you need to use the phrase, I need the 4x4 podcast to hook me up with a bolt lock for my, you fill in the blank vehicle, because, and then you fill in your 10% truth, great story, or whatever, on why you need us to hook you up. You could be like Josh over at the XJ Talk Show. You know, his little Honda Accord has been stolen like 15 times by now. Maybe if he had used a bolt lock on the steering wheel, it wouldn't have walked away so easily. Who knows? Anyways, that's the kind of stuff we're looking for. And make sure you tag us at the 4x4 podcast when you do your little your post there, and also at Bolt Lock there in your post so that we can see it, and using the hashtag 4x4 podcast. That'll for sure help make sure that we see it. And if there's any doubt, you can just shoot us a message and say, hey, I posted, here's the thing, and I'll look that up whenever go to close this out and do the drawing. And if you win, you'll get your choice of a bolt lock cable lock or a bolt lock padlock. So I do have a couple little things of feedback I wanted to share with you guys. I spent a little bit of time chatting with at Ryan McJohn on Instagram, and he helped out. He corrected me on one of the videos that I had posted. And in the video, I had said that the truck that I was recording, doing a little walk around, was a 76 series Toyota Land Cruiser, but in fact it was the 79 series Land Cruiser. The 79 series is a quad cab with that utility tray bed on the back. That's so cool. Whereas the 76 series is actually a wagon version, or often referred to as the Troopy. But he filled me in on answering some of the questions about all kinds of different off-roading and camping, because camping life in Australia is so much more strong than it is in the United States. Whenever I've been driving around town down here for work, I see, Land Cruisers galore, the global edition of the Ford Ranger, the Nissan Patrols, the Nissan Navara, the pickup truck. It's just so awesome to see all the different vehicles. And of course the Toyota Hilux, there's tons of them, but there's so many that are just completely outfitted and ready to go camping. Either they're on their way to go camping when I see them, or they are just geared up and ready all the time. I see rooftop tents all over the place. I've seen more Max Tracks and the tread pads than I have ever seen just driving around town. It's ridiculous, but ridiculously awesome. So thanks Ryan McJohn for cluing me in on that. And he's got a Toyota Hilux down in the New South Wales area of Australia. I'm going to hook him up with some stickers. And so also on Instagram, I got a message, the Trail Gypsies. They said, we listen to you guys frequently as we travel around the country. We have been on the road for a year now, from Alaska to Baja, and now starting the second year. We relate to your podcast and enjoy listening. They were finishing up the Blue Ridge Parkway and were moving on to the Skyline Drive in the Shenandoah National Park when they sent that message. And they said it's been a beautiful 469-mile drive through some small towns and made for a great camping and overlanding trip. So that sounds like a pretty awesome time. I haven't had a chance to do the Blue Ridge Parkway, but I've driven through the surrounding area, or nearby the surrounding area anyways, and it for sure is a beautiful drive, beautiful area. So thank you, Trail Gypsies, for shooting me that message. And I need to follow up and shoot you guys get some stickers out to you guys, maybe send them out to a Dropbox or something somewhere, since you guys are on the road full time. So I think that is it for now. Be sure to go back and check the show notes. If you have any questions on how to enter that giveaway for the bolt lock, just refer to the show notes at the 4x4podcast.com/126 for episode 126. And I've tried to make it easy for a lot of the episodes. If you just want to share the podcast episode, like the actual audio file, I've made the link pretty easy too. Just go to the 4x4podcast.com/126 MP3, all one word like that, and you can stick that in your Facebook post or whatever. And when somebody clicks on that, it will take them directly to the page where they can just stream the episode and listen to it that way. Anyways, that is it. So shoot us your feedback. Email us, the 4x4podcast@yahoo.com. Give us a call on our voicemail 971-924-5337. Shoot us a message on Twitter or Instagram. We're at the 4x4 podcast right there. And that's it. So that time to hit the trails. So God bless, tread lightly, and stay safe while exploring your world.